In an advertisement for homeschooling your kids, Maddie Hart Soccer on TikTok has gone viral once again, this time for saying that she didn't realize being pro-choice meant you could keep the baby because she's pro-abortion. And this young woman's whole shtick, like the bit that she does in all of her posts, is that she used to be a Christian conservative and now she is gay and progressive or whatever. And I'm just like, man, you got to homeschool your kids. Because this is a perfect example of children raising children. And I'll break it down because I'll show you some of her videos. She's extremely crude and crass. She is trying to be a comedian. Yeah, you knew it. All of her bits, at least the one that she's got pinned to her profile about her having sex or whatever. Because women do when they do comedy, I guess. Women love talking about sex. Guys do too, don't get me wrong. But I swear, the majority of male comedians will talk about things. And the majority of female comedians will talk about sex. I guess that's what plays. I mean, for a lot of guys, you're looking at like a young woman talking about sex and the guys are being titillated or whatever. So women are going to go for that stuff. It's also why OnlyFans exists. Well, I'm going to play this video of her that's making the rounds where she explains that she realized, oh heavens, she's pro-abortion. You see, look, I am not someone who grew up Christian conservative. At a young age, we were Christians, but we were like the liberal, urban sort of Christians at a Catholic school for a few years and then went to public school and was Democrat voters our whole lives because the country is predominantly Christian. But we were Democrat voters in Chicago. This is an example of why you got to homeschool your kids. And I'm going to explain, but first let me play.
I always forget that being pro-choice technically means that I'm pro people also being able to choose to keep the baby. Like, I just heard about some people from my high school who like accidentally got pregnant and the girl is apparently decided to keep the baby. And my first thought was like, what? I'm like, our state is pro-choice. You can get rid of it. And I said that to like a mutual friend and she was like, well, yeah, she can also choose to keep it. I was like, oh, that's how that works. I don't know if I'm pro-choice. I think I'm pro a lot of the people I know shouldn't be parents yet.
I agree with her to a certain extent. People like her shouldn't have kids. It's sad, really. Because her whole TikTok, she is like just ongoing bit after bit after bit about how she used to be a Christian conservative, but now she is a progressive and she's gay. And it's crude and it's, you know, like the jokes she's making, you not going to put it on YouTube. It would get age restricted. She overtly talks about like adult activities, right? And I guess that's the shtick she's going for. She got 100,000 followers. Good for her on TikTok. She got less on Instagram. I think TikTok's fake, by the way, and it encourages lewd and lascivious behavior. I think TikTok is a weapon to shatter the minds of young people, being wielded by foreign interests, and that's why they don't want to sell it off. But let me show you some of the stuff she has. Like, she did a bit where she says Fox News is unserious. She makes fun of Matt Walsh. She does this bit where she's like, I was joking, Matt Walsh, not realizing that Matt Walsh was also joking. Matt Walsh made fun of her for using the word Bethel incorrectly. But she's got a whole bunch of these things. Let me see if there's one. Once the seed is planted, there's no stopping it. She has one where it's, where is it? I don't even, like, she has one where it's like the Christian conservative to queer pipeline. She has one about, here you go, Pride Month off to the parade. Devout Christian kid to queer adult pipeline. It's like a big component of her story. Now, why is that? Why is it that this woman who was raised Christian conservative, who outright says in the video, she actually protested gay marriage. How is it that she is now a woke, progressive, low order thinker? I will say this to you, young woman, Maddie Hart. You are what's called a low order thinker, a low level thinker, or a first order thinker. And this means that your perspective on reality, and I don't even know if you can grasp this, okay, to be completely honest. It means that your perspective on reality is, how would I describe this? Limited in depth. So I'll try to explain a little bit more. And this is not meant to be insulting. I mean, I don't know that she can actually comprehend deeper thought. Most of these woke progressives can't. But it explains how she goes from Christian conservative protesting to woke liberal. She never really understood in the first place. Some people just can't. I don't know how you teach this to kids. Perhaps there is moral and philosophical lessons that you can teach them. Technology could help. helping people to understand. You know what I think is a real great way to actually develop higher order thinking? It's chess and strategy games, card games. Chess is good because it's actually fairly simple relative to modern strategy games. But the general idea is to the child that is learning to play. You're saying, if you move this piece here, what happens next? You need to think about the next steps and think ahead. Then something interesting happens. Through this, you can develop higher order thinking. And it's probably only among children. I mean, adults probably have an upper limit. But the way it would work is, then they're not just moving the one piece. They're thinking about all the different pieces, the perspective. And for me, I grew up playing Magic the Gathering. I was playing chess since I was a little kid. Memory games with my family. That stuff probably helped quite a bit. But I also read about moral philosophies when I was a teenager, a lot of it. And I read about, this is really interesting because as a teenager, I was reading, you want to approach the world thinking about, first, you want to think about how you feel. This is how you always should gauge your interactions. How do you feel in this moment with the way people are talking to you? And genuinely think about how you feel. Comprehend it. Like in your mind, say, okay, the conversation is making me upset. Why is it making you upset? That's the first thing you need to do. It can help you understand your position, your perspectives, and it gives you control over your emotions. The next thing you want to do is think about how the other person is feeling. So this is, how are they going to react to the things that I'm saying if I say it? This is the next order of thinking where you're like, if I say X, what's the outcome going to be? How will they feel based on how I feel? Next, you want to understand what is your desired outcome in this interaction? And this doesn't have to be a person. It could be a dog. It could be a rock. But you're starting to think about, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And what is my stated goal? What do I want? What do I want? That's the first level, is what do I want and why do I want it? The next thing I understand is how are you affecting your externalities? One of the most interesting elements of this was, it said, imagine you are a person sitting across the room and you are watching your interaction with another person or in your goal. How would you feel if you were watching a person do what you do? And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. You're now starting to engage the higher orders of thinking, which ultimately can advance well beyond this. You start contemplating those who came before you and those who will come after. You contemplate greater systems, the evolution of the planet, the things we think we know. You then start to understand that science is actually just what we think we know. Not what we actually know, but what we think we know. What we think is true. Someone like Maddie, if you make it to a video like this, probably doesn't comprehend these things. But there are many people who do. I'm not saying I'm not saying like you got to be a genius. I'm saying, do you think about your interactions around you and what your work will do and will become beyond you? Have you thought about what happens when you die and why that matters? Or what about 100 years from now? What about 1,000,000 years from now? What about the heat death of the universe and whether or not it's reversible through technology and manipulation of negative entropy? Man, I don't even know. So anyway, let's wind it all the way back to this conversation about homeschooling your kids. I'll make it simple for you. Maddie Hart says the thing that she says because she found a community that will empower her by saying it. Thank you and have a nice day. This is an example of children raising children, and which is why I'm not a fan of public schools. A father, a mother. They're Christian and they're conservative. They have values. They teach those values to their child. But only so far as they then, at 6 or 7 years old, unleash the child to be raised by other children. Let's go back 1,000 years. Children were standing next to their parents all the time. They were in their village, surrounded by adults, and they were emulating the adults. Sure, they'd play games with each other. They'd socialize with each other, but the adults were always there. The kid would watch the dad, who was a blacksmith, and the dad would say, son, go grab me that hammer over there. And the kid would do it. The kid got a little older. He'd say, son, I'm going to show you how to make some nails. Then the kid got older and he'd say, son, I need you to make this, make that. Then eventually the dad said, son, I'm very old. I need you to take over the shop. I can't really do what I used to do. And then your son, because the kid already had a kid by then, will take over. So that kid grew up emulating his father. In today's world, you'll get a Christian conservative dad who will raise a young woman to be Christian conservative. She will then be surrounded by a bunch of children. Children who are listless, aimless, and have no idea what's going on. They then get exploited by, this is why they do Drag Story Hour. This is why they want children on stage at drag events, because they are stripping away the roots of from the family. And this is why Maddie is now pro-choice, she has no agency. And I will say that. And I'd imagine that would offend her. I don't care. Because people have ego. She will take it as an insult that she doesn't make the choices she makes, but she doesn't. Because she's not a high order thinker. Now, it is what it is. Maybe when she's older, she can upgrade a little bit. Anybody who studies and reads can probably upgrade a little bit. But this is what happens to the average person. You are the summation of the 5 people who surround you. When she went to school, she met some kids. Those kids watched Disney Channel. Disney Channel said Orange Man bad. Now, how old is she? Like 25? So 8 years ago, she's, 17 or whatever. Probably a little too old for that stuff. But yeah, Disney Channel was running anti-Trump stuff. At least that's what parents tell me. I don't watch Disney Channel. You release your kids into the school system. The teachers are putting up all the propaganda. The parents are being removed from the equation. The children are taking cues from other children, and they're trying to be cool. The TV tells them what to listen to. The TV tells them, the phone tells them, the TikTok tells them. All of a sudden now, she's trying to get views and make money and build a stand-up career based off the perception that resources will come to her by adopting this persona. And that is what makes a person. Some people are higher order thinkers. Men tend to be a bit more aggressive and disagreeable. So this is why you're seeing a lot of guys who are more likely to be right wing and women more likely to be left wing. Women are following the cues of the social media algorithms. That's why young women developed Tourette's from Instagram. This is a crazy story, but it's true. This is why many women are progressive, because the algorithms promote this stuff. Men, being more defiant, start to look for alternatives, and you end up with people following Andrew Tate. This is it. This is why a lot of her content is, I was a Christian conservative and now I'm not. Because it plays really, really well. Off to the parade, trying to play up. And this is why so many of these young women claim to be gay. They're not. They just say they are. Because it's a popular thing. There you go. No, not everything that she's posting is this. But I mean, look at this. I know I'm bi. Here's one. Christian summer camp was crazy. Hashtag former Christian. She is being empowered by TikTok and these apps and other children to embrace an ideology that is the antithesis of how she was raised. Homeschool your kids. She goes on to say that she thinks some people shouldn't have babies. Well, a lot of people point out that liberals are getting abortions and sterilizing their kids, and that's true. And I say the fact that conservatives have more kids it's evidence that the future is going to be conservative. The math proves it. But a lot of people counter that there's indoctrination going on. Let this young woman be a perfect example of why you should homeschool your kids. I don't know that someone like her can be easily saved, because TikTok algorithms are going to keep pushing content in front of her, which she will then assume to be normative and socially acceptable. And it will be, because you make money doing it. She has 100,000 followers. How many people would love to have 100,000 followers, to be an influencer? Well, one thing I'll say is, and it's my opinion, I don't find her funny. It's really not funny at all. Like the bit she has pinned to her Instagram profile, she's like, I was a Christian growing up, and like my parents were conservative. And then she goes on to describe how she had a bunch of like lewd and lascivious sexual activities in front of a picture of Ronald Reagan. And it's like, they're going to keep encouraging it. But that's the thing. This is why you should homeschool your kids. You make sure your children are around other kids who are positively influenced, because they're influenceable. They're malleable, and they're going to imitate the elders that are around them. You send them to these schools, and this is what you get. Her whole bit, or I should say the plurality of her bit, is, I was a conservative at one point. Ho ho. And that's why you should give her money. The left tries to play this game where they're like, Tim Pool claims to be a liberal. I can lay down all of my political positions that fall into the academic view, which is known as traditional or social liberalism. Have a nice day. But they don't understand any of these concepts because they're low order thinkers. So if we're talking about mainstream liberal, I've never changed my position except for 2A, because the Constitution is like a social contract, that we abide by. But for the most part, my positions on like abortion and gay marriage stay the same. Stay the same. Taxation, yeah, mostly the same. War stayed the same. And here I am. But of course, many of the MAGA people are former Obama voters. Donald Trump himself was a liberal. They can't comprehend the fact that because words have shifted meaning based on their own strategies. That, no, I'm not pretending to be a liberal who got red pilled. That's not the case. This person, however, is a conservative who is making the shtick that now they've realized and they're now, woken up or whatever. Sure. Certainly the right has many of those people as well because they are influenced by social media and have found a path to making money. I think Hunter Avalone's a really good example. He made a bunch of money and followers on YouTube doing anti-woke content and then shifted to trying to be a liberal because that was a path he saw towards making money. That's it. These are not high-level thinkers. These are people who are just like, what's the next video that's going to get me views? Well, best of luck, young women. I think you're an excellent advertisement for homeschooling your kids. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.